everybody. Welcome to our Thursday night Alamkara meditation program. With all my heart and with all my love, I welcome you to this program this evening. Tonight we're going to be doing some questions and some answers, and we're also going to then, after that, do the Heart Sutra. Sort of clear away all the thoughts and stuff that gets generated by the mind with questions. So we'll get to clear it out with the Heart Sutra and then rest in the sublime nature of our true being. But we're going to begin, of course, with the opening mantras as a way of invoking our highest nature. And it starts with the mantra, Shri Mata Kali Mahadevi Ki Jai. And that's an invocation of Ma Kali. Kali as the source, the great mother. Not only the source of all forms, but also the source of all the divine forms of mantra. The Shakti that takes the form of mantra is Ma Kali. So we invoke her, and then we invoke Ganesh, we invoke the infinite, and we invoke her again, and then we come to rest just in the stillness for a few moments after the opening mantras. So we're going to start with the opening mantras. Shri Mata Kali Devi Ki Jai Jananam Bhuta Ganari Sevitam Kalpita Jambu Palacharu Bhakshanam Umasutam Shokam Vinashakarakam Namami Vigneshwara Para Pankajam Shri Ganeshaya Namaha Shri Ganeshaya Namaha Shri Ganeshaya Namaha Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate Om Shanti 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 Shri Mata Kali Mahadevi Ki Jai. So once again, with all my heart, I welcome you to our program tonight. Thank you for coming and bringing the power of your presence, your divine presence. You are the infinite one. And bring the power of your commitment and practices for knowing that and walking that into the world. So thank you. Thank you for being the ones who are doing that in this difficult time of Kali Yuga. So we gather together on Thursday evenings in satsang, the company of the truth. You are that embodiment of the highest. You are that one. So it's keeping the company of our own sublime nature and deepening our practices and doing practices that help to then sort of broadcast that awareness, that wisdom, that knowing into the world. So thank you. Thank you for coming. So we've been talking about that tonight would be a time for some questions, and so people have emailed me some of their questions. So we'll take up those questions. And as a kind of a preface, It's important to understand in practice that questioning and the dialogue between a teacher and a sangha is a practice in itself. And of course, there's a long tradition to that. In olden times, and that's not that far ago, in the Vedantic and yogic tradition, you would go to a teacher and a master and just be present. You would just sit in their presence. And often there were no questions. There was no dialogue like that. Everything was transmitted in silence. But as people's minds have gotten more and more, energized, one might say agitated, people more and more identified with the mind and intellect, coming into that stillness, that can be a challenge. So all the practices are really aimed at how do we start to weed out all the things that are going on in the mind. And that also means in the process of questioning that there's a discrimination that develops, the discernment. What's a question that's not just the mind. The mind's questions, they're endless. What do they have to do with knowing the truth of who we are in this moment? What does the question have to do with our sadhana, with knowing and reveling and living the divine, the infinite as ourself into the world moment by moment? So we want to direct our attention towards that, because the mind can take our attention and go over here, over there. It's got all kinds of things that it finds interesting, and they're irrelevant. So just as in meditation, we keep just letting go of this extraneous thought, that extraneous thought, this extraneous perception, that extraneous perception, this thing, that thing, all these things, right? To come to rest, to have clarity. And so that's also part of what we do in discerning. What's a question that you really want to give your attention to? Remember, attention is the most valuable commodity there is in this universe. Attention. It's all about attention. The body can be in a coma, and if there's no signal that there's any attention going on, medically, ethically, you can pull the plug on that body. Without attention, we don't even consider that life worth living. That's how important attention is. So we want to give our attention to the highest. That's what we're doing in meditation. We're developing the discrimination and the self-discipline to pull our attention away from this thought, that feeling, this reaction, this memory from yesterday or earlier today, and anticipation about tomorrow. Bring it right here, right now. What is your attention going to? That's what Buddha said. Watch your thoughts with care. As you think, so you become. What are you thinking? What are you becoming? How do you withdraw from that? How do you let that go? So these are the kind of dynamics that are critical in sadhana, in spiritual practice, in meditation practice. They're different than the practices that we would do in, a course on Kashmir Shaivism or everyday life, where we really are engaging the mind in many different ways. But meditation and sadhana, that's a different domain. So we have to separate out what the ordinary concerns of the mind are in its everyday life to come to, wait a minute, what's critical here in this practice of opening that door, of passing through that portal, of going through the bindu at the heart of Mahakali Yantra. That bindu, that black dot, that portal, no room for the mind. That leaves the mind behind. That's why it's black. It symbolizes what is so mysterious, what is so unknown, what is so unknowable by the ordinary mind. So questions, like very often in the ancient literature and the yogic Hindu tradition, you'll see them described as doubts. The question is a doubt. It's a doubt about knowing or what the truth is, or how to proceed on that. And so it was always talked about as answering questions, was helping to dispel doubts as obstacles to furthering and deepening that access to what's already fully present, your sublime, divine, infinite nature. So we want to have that in mind even when we're thinking about questions related to meditation. It's interesting to me also because of my neurophysiology background. There's a circuit in the brain that has to do with saliency. Salient means what's relative of importance to the task at hand, to what's going on. And so we're developing that kind of discrimination in the process of meditation, through the practices of meditation, so we can enter the state of meditation, the state of our own sublime being, the state of the infinite, our own self. So we want to have that as the kind of backdrop and understanding when we're entertaining even what kinds of questions. What kind of questions do you want to think about even when you're not in satsang? Do they really reveal what's going on in sadhana? Because the mind, one of the habits of mind is the mind is an instrument that loves compare and contrast. The mind sees differences where there aren't, and then does endless compare and contrast. Is this like this? Is that like that? How does this differ? How does that differ? And one can go on and on like that and never get any closer to your sublime nature. And there's famous dialogues about that. Buddha spoke about how somebody came to him and wanted to know, had all these questions about the philosophy, the background, etc. And Buddha responded to him. He said, you're like somebody who comes to the doctor with an arrow sticking in his chest and he's dying. And what does he ask the doctor? Not how quickly can you get this out, or please save me. Oh, those feathers that are the fletching of the arrow, where do you think they came from? Did they come from this kind of bird or that kind of bird? Not relevant. Get the arrow out. So when we're suffering and there are things impinging on our consciousness that are creating that suffering, we want to pull the arrow out, not look at it and examine it and try and figure out this or that or the other thing. How do we get free? So that's how we proceed with what are we giving our attention to. Now, some of the questions that were emailed to me, we want to take up. So somebody was asking a question about, what's the necessity of Kundalini? How does that really fit in that there are teachers and masters who don't really talk about Kundalini? And does that mean it's unnecessary? And so there's a doubt. Then, and underlying that is also we want to get at what's the understanding, of Kundalini. Kundalini is consciousness, pure consciousness. The most expanded form of that power of consciousness, Kundalini Shakti, is knowing the infinite as one's own self. It is the awareness of I am that. The words are words, the awareness of that unbounded, all-embracing, all-encompassing awareness is Kundalini Shakti. The evolution of that power from its identification, our consciousness being identified with the mind, the body, the roles that we play, the place where we start, metaphorically, awakening to that there's more to who we are, more to what all this is than just those limited forms. That's the unfolding of that. And so there's ways of that one could talk about the evolution and the unfolding of that consciousness that don't necessarily talk about it in those terms. The important point is about the Shakti, or the power of consciousness, is that power. Some of the things that were understood about what's unique in some ways about the unfolding of that consciousness, especially in the Tantra traditions of the yogic tradition, is that rather than just simply opening up awareness to that, that there's also comes with that consciousness, the understanding, the direct experience that all of this is that. It's not there's this unbounded awareness and then there's the world. The world is the same as that unbounded consciousness. The power of that consciousness is what creates and then dances as all those forms. And it's true that in many of the traditions, it was just interested in what's that pure awareness, not the embrace of all that is. And we see this in even a great Advaita Vedantin, Shankaracharya of the 10th century, when he was in that state and recognized as a great master, and having that direct experience of the infinitude of pure awareness. In a sense, there was a limitation there. He didn't get that all of this is indeed that. And it wasn't until Kundalini awoke in him and unfolded the rest of the fullness of that awareness so that he could see there's not either or, it's all one. And he went on to write this exquisite poem called Sundara Lahari. And in it, he talks about how the ultimate enlightenment comes about, that all-encompassing, all-embracing, nothing left out awareness through the grace of Kundalini Shakti. So yes, we can get into refined states of awareness and have that experience of unity consciousness, and the fullness of appreciating even the relative domain, even limited forms. That's that embrace that comes from the full unfolding of Kundalini Shakti, that all of this is the divine, nothing left out. And so it points to one of the things that can be a bit one-sided about using just the intellect as in self-inquiry, or even in some of Buddhist practices, where it's as if Buddha mind is just that awareness that is untouched by any forms, that just sees forms as if they're really nothing. And we see that. We're going to do the Heart Sutra. We've done the Heart Sutra every month. You see that. It sort of opens that. That's medicine. That's medicine for the mind that gets so caught and bound by its identification with thoughts, feelings, roles, things in the world, attracted to this, repulsed by that, got to have this to feel good, got to get rid of that to feel good. So the medicine for the mind is that absolute detachment, that absolute let it all go. However, if the disease of the mind is the rejection of form, then we need, instead of neti, neti, not this, we need iti, iti, and this, and this, and this. It's all this, it's all that. Nothing's left out. So we don't want one-sidedness. We don't want limitation. We want it all. Right? That's the unfolding of the fullness of consciousness. And whether we call it Kundalini or just the fullness of consciousness doesn't matter. It's that full unfolding is completely all-embracing, all-encompassing, nothing left out. So self-inquiry and I am and practicing I am awareness is great. Use of mantra. The person raises a question about mantra. And mantras have meaning. Some people have a mistaken notion that somehow I may have said that mantras don't have meaning. I think you'll know that what I say is the most important thing about mantra isn't the meaning, isn't the translation. That's the mind getting caught in just that. The most important, again, saliency the most important thing about mantra is the Shakti of the mantra, the power of consciousness that is transferred, that's embodied, that is conveyed, that arises, call it what we will, but mantra is a vehicle of full awakened awareness. And it's a little challenging to have to go from non-dual awareness, which there is no conveyance, there is no difference, there is nothing that's going to be transformed, to the domain of the mind where it looks like things are separate and things are different and things have to be conveyed. And so mantra, as a limited form of that pure awareness, narrow as, in its grossest form, as sound, in a subtler form, as just the inner repetition, the silent repetition, or in its subtler form, as just the pure I am awareness. That is the root of mantra. So we make use of mantra as a vehicle, but mantra as a vehicle has the Shakti of that state. That's different than words. Right? So Om as a mantra. Now Om is a primal mantra. It doesn't have a particular translation, meaning in terms of ordinary words. It points beyond, it points to the infinitude of which it is a throb, it is a pulsation. So when we're entering and dissolving our awareness in Om, we're doing it into the infinitude, into the boundlessness. Now, it erases everything, or gives birth to everything. So Om is that. Hamsa, I am. That it's the awareness of I am. Yes, you can repeat I am, and do inquiry on that. Then you don't have the Shakti of mantra supporting that. Now you're just in the mind practicing that. Wouldn't you also want the Shakti that dispels the mind, that dissolves it into I am, I am, I am that I am. Hum sa, so hum. Throbs with that awareness. Reverberates with that. That's what's conveyed by mantra. Not just the simple idea of I am. Mantra. Special power. Not everybody's had the good fortune to experience that directly, to have been with teachers who conveyed that directly, that came through a lineage that passed that on directly. So they're left with words. Well, words can go quite far. But the final dissolution, beyond words, beyond even form of mantra. That's why mantra is self-dissolving. You enter mantra, dissolves itself and your limited self with it to merge into the infinite, emerge into the truth of who you are. That's the power of mantra. That's what we take refuge in. And in this age, the great traditions talk about in Kali Yuga, mantra is particularly important because we can engage it, we can become immersed, we can receive the grace of the power of the infinite anytime, any place. So sacred sound, mantra, is a practice for this age when people are so distracted, they have so little time, we're so engaged in the mind, our activities are so demanding. So we're given by the infinite this gift for this age. Oh, here's something that you can take in any place, any time. A simple 2 syllables. Hum and sa. Om Namah Shivaya, 6 syllables. Om Kalima. And there you have the infinite dancing on your tongue. The sound form is so revered that in the East, if you're doing a practice like mantra in a ritual practice, you wash your mouth, you brush your teeth, you scrape your tongue, you brush your tongue, so that the sound form of the infinite you have the divine right there. This is the discrimination that's required. The ordinary mind makes things ordinary. It thinks mantra, just ordinary words. So why can't I just say this or say that? Huh? Because you won't get the same results. That's why. They don't have the power. Your words are mind-born. Mantra, born of the infinite. Want to go to the infinite? Ride the train of mantra. You want to go somewhere else? Ride all those thought trains. You've been on them countless times. You know where they take you. So mantra is a sublime practice for this age. But not to stay with the form. Again, people get confused as it becomes more subtle, as it's self-dissolving. Let it dissolve. It arises out of stillness, dissolves into stillness. You arise out of stillness. You dissolve into stillness. Know that stillness, beyond words, beyond thoughts, beyond it all, that's what we're invited to know. So if we can just, again, understanding from the Shaivite tradition, the different upayas and the different levels at which we approach things. If we're in a very differentiated, separate, dualistic state, then there's the mantra, there's the repeater of the mantra, there's the deity of the mantra, and we're trying to keep that all together. There's Shiva, there's Om Namah Shivaya, there's sound, there's me repeating it. Well, these all need to merge. So then we're holding in Shaktupaya that awareness. No, it's all one. This is all one. I'm repeating it with the awareness. I am Shiva. I am infinite. I am the boundless one. I am the auspicious one. Until you dissolve into that. Now, as you're dissolving into that, if you keep doing the concrete form of Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, then you're keeping your consciousness bound on that level. You want to enter the vehicle and let it take you back into that infinite spaciousness. That's where the rapture is. That's where the infinitude of bliss, of wisdom, of compassion, of love. That's what we want. We don't want the mind. Who cares about the mind? Mind's a great instrument for your work and everyday life. But you want to know God, it's useless. You want to know your Buddha nature. It's got to be dumped. Just the way it is. Poor mind. Poor mind, so convinced. But it's like, I've been so important your whole life, don't leave me behind. Sorry, you're still important. We still love you. You're an emanation of the Shakti. Your essence is divine. But as a limited container, you only hold a cup of the ocean. You don't hold the whole ocean. So we leave behind the mind. So, this is the power of mantra. This is the power of practice. This is understanding how the Shakti that's inherent in these practices, it's been known for thousands of years. I don't care if a modern day teacher doesn't understand mantra or doesn't know how to translate that this consciousness is mantra. People speak disparagingly about mantra. To me, all they're revealing is their ignorance. It's okay. The truth is, it's the infinite, it's the divine. It's come, bearing gifts, the gifts of that infinite wisdom, boundless love, the rapture. Satchidananda. That's it. Now some of the other questions. A couple have to do with Kriyas. So Kriyas are movements of this awakened Shakti, this awakened energy. Kriyas literally means movement. And they're known across traditions. That in Christian traditions, the movement of that was known by a variety of sects. The Quakers quaked. What was quaking? That was the Shakti, Holy Spirit. The Shakers shook. They became known as Shakers. What was that? The Shakti, it's the Kundalini, Holy Spirit. People would speak in tongues. Mantras would just spontaneously arise. That's that. The Holy Spirit, it's the Shakti. And so what we do is we train the mind not to get attached to or identified with any of these movements. So the mind's task is to watch, but watch with a kind of a reverence and awe. But we also want to watch the mind because the mind as an instrument, the mind as an instrument for everyday life has gotten very good and depends on its ability for prediction and control. And you see a lot of its strategies have to do, and a lot of its comfort has to do with being able to predict, control, be at ease in that knowing. So it often takes something that's happening in the present moment and projects it off into the future, indefinitely into the future. This happens with Kriyas as well. So the mind, the ordinary mind, looking at this, it might be pranayama Kriyas. So changes in breath. Sometimes the breath can become fast and shallow, sometimes slow and deep. Sometimes the breath can go out and not come back in for a time, right? Or come in and stop. Spontaneous kumbhaka. It's a form of pranayama. And you'll notice that it has an impact on the mind. So these kriyas are a reflection of the sublime, boundless intelligence of this power of consciousness that we call Kundalini Shakti, that as it awakens and moves, is moving through the body and the mind in ways to open us to a deeper and fuller experience of the infinite and the ability to serve it more and more clearly and freely. So the Kriyas are a gift. And so we just want to watch them with that kind of awe, that kind of reverence that we receive them in. And try to keep the mind from getting too involved in its prediction and control about it. Can it just stay present and receive that and still see more and more the boundlessness of consciousness, the boundlessness of awareness that is watching that. To see the seer who's never seen, the seer who's watching every movement of his consort, his divine spouse, Shakti, with absolute delight. That's what we can do. That's how we can be present with those. We're just watching. We're just watching with awe, with reverence. The gifts of grace that come in so many forms. It can be an insight. It can be a movement. They can be gross. They can be subtle. All kinds of things. So that's what I've written about in the book Awakening Kundalini, The Path to Radical Freedom, and in the book The Soul's Journey also goes into that. So those are sources that people can refer to for more information about that. Many other sources out there as well. So the attitude of being present with that, that's what's important as well. Just that openness and gratitude and reverence for those gifts of the movements of the Shakti. Then there was a question that somebody had asked, and they had actually asked it at the end of satsang a couple of weeks ago, about how I experienced, they said process, I wouldn't say process, how I experienced the passing of Muktananda. One of my great teachers was Swami Muktananda, and I had received a great deal from him, as well as other teachers. But he was a really central and powerful presence in my life for many years. And I had the good fortune of having experienced a lot of things before I got involved with his teachings and his practices and following those, so that my sense of who he was as an individual was both a human being and a conduit for the infinite, a conduit for the divine. So the Shakti that flowed through him, the the insights, the inspiring teachings and things that he passed on came from that infinitude. I was also aware of his humanity. Like all humans, there were limitations. This is part of understanding your own divinity. Some people think they're going to leave behind their humanity. No, this form is always human. The part of the sublime teaching of even this extraordinary symbolic system of the Sushumna Nadi and the chakras that are spoken about in the Kundalini tradition, on a symbolic level, it's saying every human being encompasses everything from the Sahasrara, the boundless infinitude, to the Muladhara, the contracted state of the earthly domain. You're all of it. You're all of it. You're all of that all the time. You embody all of that. So the clearer those different levels and those different sort of symbolic centers of consciousness that are known as chakras become through the process, then the more the fullness of your sublime nature can radiate through all those different levels. But there's still limitation. The body is limited, the mind is limited. They become more and more infused and more graceful conduits for the infinitude of the divine that is the essence of everyone. That's the essence of who you are. So when Baba left his form, when he took Mahasamadhi, when he died, it felt to me like the culmination of his teachings. As he left his form, I was left with the sublime essence of his gifts of grace, the highest truth, the highest understanding, the purity of that consciousness. I was flooded by that, literally flooded by that. And interestingly, I was at a workshop. I was running a weekend retreat on his practices in upstate New York when he passed, and didn't know that. But at one point in that retreat, suddenly I just felt like I actually had it was a small group, it was a small center upstate. I said, no, everybody, you can just go. It was around the lunchtime. Everybody was going to go for a walk and do things and see. There was some beautiful waterfalls and everything. I said, no, somehow I just need to sit. I just need to sit. And as I sat in that stillness, that infinitude of consciousness just washed absolutely through me. And I saw Baba. I had a clear sense of his presence. And like he was just radiating. He was like the sun. And what was radiant was that infinitude of awareness. It takes so many words to describe something. It was the fullness of love. It was the boundlessness of wisdom. The infinitude of consciousness. All there. Until his form disappeared. And all there was that radiance. And I was flooded. There was nothing left. It's in 1982. And I just sat in that. And a couple hours later, people started coming back in. And one of them came up to me and said, we just got a call. Baba just took Mahasamadhi. That was his parting gift. The ancient texts talk about this. When Master leaves, Shakti goes to all his disciples. It all merges. Now the next day I was on a plane to Ganeshpuri. So for me, his shedding that imperfect human form was the culmination of all his teachings. Don't get attached to the form. It's the radiance. It's the infinite. That's the heart of the Guru. That's the true Guru. So I said the Kundalini Shakti is the true Guru, the inner Guru. Not a person, a power of consciousness. That sublime, infinite consciousness dwelling within everyone as their very self. Know that. Yes, we can miss the form, but we're never caught in the form. We're never limited by that. Of course, we delight in some forms more than others. That's part of the ordinary mind and the beautiful texture of life. But we know the root. We know the source. We know that fullness. Then we know there's nothing lacking. There's nothing absent. It's all fully present. Here, now, always. Come home to that. Come home to that. And to help that, we clear the mind. That's the only thing in the way is our attachment to and identification with the mind. Not the mind itself. The mind is just Shakti, just the play of Shakti. But we help quiet it and clear it because we're so driven to identify and become attached to every thought, feeling, defend this identity, promote that identity, all this stuff that we have to try and quiet it down. That's an interim stage into the stillness. But eventually it doesn't matter. It's all the play of the infinite. But we can't take a shortcut. Can't tell ourselves that without having experienced that. So we go into the stillness till we know that's all there is. There's no one home here. It's an ephemeral construction of the mind, empowered by the infinite to do that play. But now we're going to do the Heart Sutra, because as a practice for helping to shed all the thoughts, all the forms, all what Buddha called the 5 skandhas, all these things appearing in consciousness that we so readily get identified with and crave and go after. Set it aside, set it aside, set it all aside. It's like the neti, not this, not this, not this. Not even I am. Nothing, because that's another thought. Into the spaciousness. And from that place, the seer sees. What does the seer see? Nothing but itself. All is one. Nothing, no one left out. And in that, you're in the heart of the infinite. You're in the boundless love, the boundless joy, the boundless wisdom. So, now we'll do the Heart Sutra. And the way we do the Heart Sutra is we read it aloud 3 times through, and the summary mantra of the Heart Sutra is Gate, Gate, Paragate, Parasamgate, Bodhi, Swaha, gone beyond, fully beyond. Hail the goer, the Bodhi, that's you. Swaha, so mote it be. So then we'll just sit in the stillness. The mind moves, just watch it. Just go, oh, that's just the play of the skandhas, the play of Shakti, consciousness, delighting in forms, not me. I don't need to attend to that at all. Let me attend to the infinitude of simply being fully awake, fully aware, fully present now. So here we go. Avalokiteshvara, Bodhisattva, coursing through deep prajna paramita, clearly saw that all five skandhas are empty, transforming all suffering and distress. Shariputra, form is no other than emptiness, emptiness no other than form. Form is exactly emptiness, emptiness exactly form. Sensation, thought, impulse, consciousness are also like this. Shariputra, all things are marked by emptiness, not born, not destroyed, not stained, not pure, without gain, without loss. Therefore in emptiness there is no form, no sensation, thought, impulse, consciousness, no eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, mind, no color, sound, smell, taste, touch, object of thought, no realm of sight to no realm of thought, no ignorance and also no ending of ignorance, to no old age and death and also no ending of old age and death. No suffering and also no source of suffering, no annihilation, no path. No wisdom, also no attainment. Having nothing to attain, bodhisattvas live prajna paramita with no hindrance in the mind. No hindrance, thus no fear. Far beyond delusive thinking, they attain complete nirvana. All Buddhas, past, present, and future, live prajna paramita and thus attain anuttara samyak sambuddhi. Therefore know that prajna paramita is the great mantra, the wisdom mantra, the unsurpassed mantra, the supreme mantra, which completely removes all suffering. This is truth, not deception. Therefore set forth the prajna paramita mantra. Set forth this mantra and say, Gate, gate, paragate, parasamgate, bodhi swaha. Avalokiteshvara, Bodhisattva, coursing through deep prajna paramita, clearly saw that all five skandhas are empty, transforming all suffering and distress. Shariputra, form is no other than emptiness, emptiness no other than form. Form is exactly emptiness, and emptiness exactly form. Sensation, thought, impulse, consciousness are also like this. Shariputra, all things are marked by emptiness, not born, not destroyed, not stained, not pure, without gain, without loss. Therefore in emptiness there is no form, no sensation, thought, impulse, consciousness, no eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, mind, no color, sound, smell, taste, touch, object of thought, no realm of sight to no realm of thought, no ignorance and also no ending of ignorance, to no old age and death and also no ending of old age and death, no suffering and also no source of suffering, no annihilation, no path, no wisdom, also no attainment. Having nothing to attain, bodhisattvas live prajna paramita with no hindrance in the mind. No hindrance, thus no fear. Far beyond delusive thinking, they attain complete nirvana. All Buddhas, past, present, and future, live prajna paramita and thus attain anuttara samyak sambuddhi. Therefore know that prajna paramita is the great mantra, the wisdom mantra, the unsurpassed mantra, the supreme mantra, which completely removes all suffering. This is truth, not deception. Therefore set forth the prajna paramita mantra. Set forth this mantra and say, Gate, gate, paragate, parasamgate, bodhi swaha. Avalokiteshvara, Bodhisattva, coursing through deep prajna paramita, clearly saw that all five skandhas are empty, transforming all suffering and distress. Shariputra, form is no other than emptiness, emptiness no other than form. Form is exactly emptiness, emptiness exactly form. Sensation, thought, impulse, consciousness are also like this. Shariputra, all things are marked by emptiness, not born, not destroyed, not stained, not pure, without gain, without loss. Therefore in emptiness there is no form, no sensation, thought, impulse, consciousness, no eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, mind, no color, sound, smell, taste, touch, object of thought, no realm of sight to no realm of thought, no ignorance and also no ending of ignorance, to no old age and death and also no ending of old age and death. No suffering and also no source of suffering, no annihilation, no path, no wisdom, also no attainment. Having nothing to attain, bodhisattvas live prajna paramita with no hindrance in the mind. No hindrance, thus no fear. Far beyond delusive thinking, they attain complete nirvana. All Buddhas, past, present, and future, live Prajna Paramita and thus attain Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi. Therefore know that Prajna Paramita is the great mantra, the wisdom mantra, the unsurpassed mantra, the supreme mantra, which completely removes all suffering. This is truth, not deception. Therefore set forth the Prajna Paramita mantra. Set forth this mantra and say, Gate, Gate, Paragate, Parasangate, Bodhi Swaha. Gate, Gate, Parangate, 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 Parasangate, Bodhi Swaha. Gone, gone, gone beyond, fully beyond, hail the goer. Gone, gone, gone beyond, fully beyond, hail the goer. Gate, Gate, Parangate, Parasangate, Bodhi Swaha. 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 Gate, Gate, Paragate, 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 Parasangate, Bodhi Swaha. And we end with this prayer. And may all our practices truly benefit everyone. And may all beings know complete freedom from suffering. And namaste. So, words aside, teachings aside, practices aside, enter the infinite, the one, beyond all practices, beyond all teachings, beyond all words, the very source of mantra, the very source of who you think you are. So come home, come to know who you really are. And then walk that truth into the world. Walk that wisdom, walk that love, walk that compassion, walk that joy. Walk that presence that sees the fullness, sees beyond what people are identified with, to see their essence. You can deal skillfully with everyday life, but without sacrificing the vision that sees the divine presence, all times, all places, all beings, all creation. Tattvamasi, thou art that. So thank you with all my heart for coming this evening, bringing the power of your presence, the power of your practices, and living this into the world. And thank you for the many ways you support Anamkara with donations and especially with sharing what we offer, the YouTube videos and the Anamkara e-newsletter, just putting it out there to support people coming home to the truth of who they are, so we can live that into the world, live that freedom, live that joy, live that love, live that wisdom. I look forward to seeing you next week.